Hi and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to, the podcast all about the things that it takes to be a professional musician aside from actually playing your instrument, which we kind of take as a given here. It's an endless process, and that is the blessing and the curse of playing music. That's what I feel, at least. My name is Emily Dolan Davis. I've been drumming since 1999, professional since 2008, and helping others to reach their professional goals since 2018. And that is why we're here today. So today, let's start out by giving a Patreon shout out to a lovely Patreon member who has been a member for a long old while, and that is Andy Brown. Andy Brown is a musician from Australia. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to you, Andy. Very appreciated. And if you're someone who regularly listens to the podcast as well and you want to support it, you now can over on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Emily Drums. So let's get into it, the nitty-gritty. So this episode was actually inspired by one of my coaching students and also this period of time that I'm about to go into. And it's the idea of, well, I guess it's overwhelm is the overarching theme of this, and kind of how to combat it, how I personally combat it, at least how I see it, how I try and minimize it, because inevitably it happens. Like life is overwhelming sometimes, it really is, and we've all got loads of stuff that we're juggling, whether that's life stuff, work stuff, everything in between. And I think especially being a professional musician, I feel that our jobs are very diverse now. I say now, I feel like mine always has been, but I wonder if that's generational. It probably is, because before, don't ask me when, years ago, let's go the 80s, because I've worked a lot with 80s artists, and as far as I'm aware, as I understand it, you could be on the road for the whole year, essentially. That can be your full-time job, and that's it, like one and done sort of thing, one artist, all of that. It's not like that now. We are all not just working with multiple artists, we are working in multiple different scenarios. So whether that is going on tour with an artist, as well as being in the studio recording, as well as doing functions and covers gigs, as well as teaching, as well as creating content online, as well as being our own marketers on our social media and all that sort of stuff. And an array of other things depending on what you choose to do alongside all that, which obviously for me is doing a degree part-time also, because I like to fill my time, don't I? So we all have these things, and then you have life stuff alongside that. If you've got families, partners, whatever, kids, the balance is a balance. It's a balancing act, to say the least, and I think it's very easy to get very overwhelmed, especially if you're trying to pursue a career in music, because if you're anything like me, I'm someone that is very I get a lot of inspirational ideas, often at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. That seems to be my time. These days I'm asleep at that time, which is fantastic. It's the best thing I can be doing at 3 a.m, let me tell you. But back in the day, it would very much be that time, like, oh, I could do this, I could try that. And it was all very like inspiring at that time. And what that meant was I just had all these ideas that I wanted to execute. And I loved them all, and I wanted to do them all, but consequently I'd get to the point where I'd feel so inspired, and then suddenly I'd feel so overwhelmed and so debilitated, and like I couldn't take action on anything, basically, and just it felt like this massive kind of meteorite that was heading straight towards me, and I couldn't get out of its way, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but there we go. But the other weird thing was, because I was self-employed, still am, what that meant was, and has meant, does that even make sense? Not sure. Anyway, I was in charge of my own scheduling. So it wasn't like I was going to a 9-to-5 job where someone tells you what, like, what your job is, what your role is, you're just doing your job day to day. It was very much, right, I choose what I do, and this can be a blessing in some ways. It can be a bit of a curse in others. It's a blessing because you get to choose, like the choice of what you get to do every day is fantastic. It's very difficult though. It can be very overwhelming, not just in choosing what to do, but if you're feeling overwhelmed, I know I found this, you can feel so, like I say, debilitated, like you're so exhausted, you can't even understand what the first step would be and in which area you want to focus on and what is going to move the needle most on all of this. It is a nightmare, and sometimes it can be like an inspiring going like, oh, creatively I really want to do that, but then there's part of you going, yeah, but you gotta earn money for rent. So there's a practicality involved, and the way that I would see it is that it would be this sort of ocean of time, but it was like to fill, but it was almost too much time. It's like, I tell you what it's like, and I don't know if you can relate to this. I think writers have it, definitely, but I know what it's like when it comes to like either painting or drawing. I mean, look, I paint, I am not a painter. I draw, I am not a drawer, but I have always drawn and I've always painted since I was a kid, mainly due to my mum. I think she's actually an artist. She's really good, like actually really, really fantastic. But the thing of having a blank sheet of paper in front of you or a blank canvas or whatever it is, there's something really intimidating about that for me. It's like that first mark that you make on a blank sheet of paper is like, it feels pertinent, it feels important. And I feel like when it comes to at least for me, sorting out my time, I feel like it's very much the same. It's like this first thing has to be important, it has to be pertinent. I have to get this schedule right for the day or for the week or for the month or whatever it is. And again, that comes back to my own problems with perfectionist tendencies. I'm getting better. It is a journey. It is a never-ending journey, but it's fine. It makes me be able to relate to other people that have these perfectionist tendencies. I don't want to say issues, that makes it sound negative. It's not great, but there are positives to everything, obviously. So I just wanted to talk through my process of when I feel like that, feel that overwhelm, feel I don't know where to start, feel like everything and nothing all at the same time. It's such a hard thing to explain, but I feel like everyone listening now knows what I'm talking about in some way or another, when there's just lots of loose ends, if you like, that you want to tie some of them up to make some sense of them more than anything. Or even not worse, because I enjoy it, you're creating more loose ends because you're feeling inspired of a thing that you want to do. You've seen something and you're like, oh, that's a great idea, I'd love to do that. I think that would really help my playing, or that would really help my career, or that would really help my teaching, or whatever. And you're like, I want to do that, but how? And oh my gosh, there's a whole nother thing to add to my to-do list. So what I tend to do when I get into these scenarios, and I'm about to enter this phase at the moment where I need to make sure that I catch myself, not overwhelming myself. But yes, what I will do is I will step back and just go, right, let me simplify this to the most simple terms that I possibly can imagine. And for me at the moment, balance very much comes into it, because in the past, as I've spoken about multiple times, for me it was drumming, work. There was nothing else. Everything else was kind of if I have the time, or if I have to, or you know what I mean. There was an element of fitting everything else in, which I will say is probably a big part of the reason I am able to call myself a professional drummer. However, I will say that it has led me to have a very unbalanced life for a big chunk of my life, and my health, my friendships, my relationships have suffered 100%. Would I change it? Probably not, because I really like where I'm at right now. I don't regret any of it. I might have done a few things a bit differently, but it is what it is, as they say. It is what it is. We are where we are, and we move forward. So for me, currently, it's all about looking at that balance. So in terms of priorities, I will always look at, right, what is my priority? Now, first and foremost, priority, and this comes down to simple Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a psychological thing and everything, which is, the needs are, I need to earn money to have a roof over my head, have food in my fridge, and you know, that has always been like the number one thing. And for me, it's really interesting actually. So I don't know if I mentioned this recently, I feel like I might have. So I go to this boxing gym, right? And it's full of so many different types of people. It's fantastic. I love it. It's fascinating, and chatting to people, getting to know about their lives and what they do, but also how they think. And I was having a conversation with one of the girls there, and she was saying that she read this book, and it was saying about the term work-life balance. And she was like, I'm convinced it should be life-work balance. And I was like, yeah, I like that. That's really interesting. She was like, oh, and I read this other really interesting thing about, like, rather than sort of you earn your money and then you have the amount that you have in a month, like per month, and then you kind of you spend that money, you work from that point, like I have this much to spend, so I can spend this on that and that on that and that and that. And she was like, it was saying like maybe you work from the other way up, so it's more like, oh, you need this for this, like this for rent, this for food, this for this, so I only need to earn this to cover my costs. And I said to her, that's how I've literally lived my life since I was like 16. That is literally, and I still, to this day, that is how I live my life. I just go from the expenses and the overheads up. So I know, right, I need to earn X amount every month. And then for me, what I do is, depending on what is the most prominent part of my career, i.e. my earning capacity at that time, whether that's touring, whether that's playing covers gigs, functions gigs, whether that's doing studio sessions, whether that's doing coaching sessions, I know, right, I need X amount of gigs a week, I need X amount of tours a year, I need X amount of recording sessions a month, I know that I need to have X amount of students a month to cover my bills. And then everything else is kind of a bonus if there is anything else. But if there isn't, I get to get away with it for another month. So for me, that's my number one priority. So that will always win out on everything else. And currently what that, so back in the day, that would look like, you know, practicing, doing rehearsals, obviously doing studio sessions, reaching out to clients, finding new clients. Currently it's working with my students. So it's doing this podcast. This is a very important part of my work and like actually having income. And it's not from the Patreon. Someone was asking me about that the other day, and I was like, dude, the Patreon is not there for me to earn money. It's there because people want to support it, and that's how they are able to. It's not a, like, if you, the Patreon was never started to earn money, let me tell you. It's lovely and I really appreciate it, but it's more the act of people being able to actually just show their gratitude in a monetary way, and it's lovely and I appreciate it so much. But you know, it wasn't that. So no, this podcast is almost just to find my people, if you like, that understand the way that I talk and present things, and it connects with them in a way that they feel that hopefully I can help them on a one-to-one basis. So this podcast is very, very important for me to do. Equally, so is my psychology and counselling degree, because that all kind of feeds into the working with people, coaching them, you know, helping them out on various sort of like areas. It's not just about the playing. It very seldom is, to be fair. And yeah, so that's that. But again, it just depends on what period of time I'm in. So I think if you're in that situation right now, just think, right, what's the bare minimum that I have to do every week to make sure that all my bills are paid? And whether that's teaching, fine. If you, I have a few students that have teaching gigs in schools, and by doing that, that facilitates the rest of their life that they want to do. Because another part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or maybe it's not even the hierarchy of needs, but the maximum, like the pinnacle of the triangle of the hierarchy, is self-actualization, which is basically, well, as I understand it, because I'm definitely going to butcher this because I don't know 100%, but it's kind of being the best version of yourself. It's investing in yourself and just being able to, yeah, just greet the world in the best way possible and give. That's how I see it. Give to the world from your best self, if you like, position, without sounding too woo-woo, new age, whatever. I think it's important. I find it very, actually, I will be honest, I find the self-actualization thing very difficult sometimes. I feel there's an element of guilt that I have with it, in terms of like, how dare I even have the capacity to be self-actualized when other people are struggling just to eat? That's my own personal hang-up that I have to deal with all the time with myself, but I'm hoping that, you know, I don't know, I don't think I want to get over it. I think it's good to always be aware of these things, but at the same time, I recognize the incredibly privileged position that I'm in to even think about being self-actualized and working on that, which I am. So yes, anyway, sorry, side note, probably go much too far into it. So anyway, I'd go with priorities first in terms of money, right? Earn your money. Do that how you need to do it. Ideally, obviously, it's going to be from playing, if that's what your aim is, or teaching, if that's what your aim is, or whatever, recording, touring, you know, if there's something, if you can earn money in that, like, realm, that's great. Even if it's not quite where you want to be yet, just adjacent to it. So for me, when I was growing up, that was playing functions gigs and covers gigs, because multiple reasons, obviously. Playing with other people is always going to up your skill set. Always, always, always. I was making sure I was playing with different people all the time, so I was always expanding my network. That also meant that I was always like changing up the genres that I was playing. I was exposing myself to different influences and all that, and blah, 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 blah. And that obviously paid off for me. I mean, when I tell you that, I look back now and I think about doing those things now, and I'm like, I don't think I have the energy to even think about having to do that all over again. It's like when people say to me, would you never pick up another instrument? I'm like, no, because I know what it takes to get good at an instrument, and I want to be good at things that I do. It's how I'm wired. I can't really do things ish. I have to be like mildly obsessed. I've become mildly obsessed. I've kind of have worked out how to put a bit of a cap on it in terms of just not having to go all the way with stuff. But anyway, sorry, I'm in a bit of a digressive mood. Don't think that's a word. So yes, I think just prioritizing, if we're talking about overwhelm, just think, if I only pick one thing that I need to do to make sure that those bills get paid, great. And then, as I say, everything else can be a bonus with whatever time is left. So I think that is really good. In terms of, let's say, for instance, right, let's say you're teaching, that is how you're getting your money, but you have multiple private students, fine. But the students are straddling 6 days of the week. You've got like 2 students on one day, one on another day, 5 on another day, 3 on another day, whatever, etc., etc. That, to me, is not just overwhelming. It is, like, even thinking about it, just the spread outness of it makes me feel uncomfortable. And there's a thing about task switching, and it's, as far as I'm aware, it's a psychologically backed thing, that when you switch tasks, and in fact, I just read something literally like a couple of hours ago to back this up, and it said that it makes you 60%, 60 or 40, let's say 40, just go under the under amount, 40% less productive, or like it takes away 40% of your energy, or it takes 40% more energy to switch tasks. Sorry, I'm not relaying this very well. Basically, not great for energy levels. It basically takes up a lot of energy to switch between things. So let's say you have like 2 students, but then later that day you want to be doing content creation, right? To switch between those 2 tasks is going to take a lot more energy than if you were just doing teaching, and then let's say the next day just doing content creation. And the reason I say this is because batching is a really good way to simplify what you're doing. So for instance, if you say that you're doing your teaching on a Monday and on a Wednesday, and then you're doing your content creation for your Instagram, your social media, for your personal marketing, should we say, do that on a Tuesday. Let's say you're working on something really specific with your practicing, doing that on a Thursday. And let's say that, right, you want to make sure that you have some like self-care time, looking after yourself, going to the gym on a Friday and a Sunday, say. And let's say you have Saturday for family time off, however you want to do it. Because it's the other thing, putting in time to actually rest and be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, is the most underrated thing ever. And I was brought up with this being hammered into me, and I just did not listen. And it was from my friend Sharice's dad, Eddie. Hi, Ed. And he would always say to us, so Charisse is a drummer as well, she plays out with Simple Minds at the moment, if you don't know. She is my best friend. And he used to say, girls, you have to have a day off a week. And we're like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. And he used to just kill us about this, but we just would not listen. Let me tell you now, I try and have 2 days off. And in fact, I saw him fairly recently and he was like, you having a day off? I went, Ed, I'm having almost 2. And he's like, oh my gosh. And what I love as well is the fact that he never would take a day off. So hypocrite. But anyway, I love that man. So having time for yourself is really, really important. But I think that like just allocating certain days to certain things just really helps with managing stuff in terms of like, because we all know that fear. Well, maybe we don't, but I certainly know that feeling. Like I say, going back to this idea of having an ocean of time and you're like, oh my God, how do I fill it? It's crippling for me. Whereas if I wake up and it's a Monday and I know, oh, that's cool, Monday is for recording episodes, great. Well, I get up and I start my day because I just know what I'm doing because that is what Mondays are for. Tuesdays and Wednesdays currently, well not currently, not currently this week, but last week and for the last 8 months has been uni work. So every Tuesday and Wednesday, I open up my computer, I go to the OU website and I continue to study and whatever that looks like. And then Thursdays and Fridays are exclusively for my coaching students. I say this now because this is changing as of this week. I can open up more slots for coaching students, which is fun, but I need to be very careful not to overwhelm myself and that for when the academic year starts, I'm not overwhelmed. So this is why I have to kind of keep tabs on myself a little bit. So anyway, that is how I sort of like run my week. And then Saturdays and Sundays are kind of like contingency days or days off. Often days off. Very occasionally I work over the weekends, but I try not to. And that's and also I go like boxing on a Saturday and on a Wednesday evening. So they're kind of my days that I know that I'm working out and I feel good about it. So I don't even need to think about it. I don't need to make a decision. It's happening. It just is my life. It's part of my life. So I think that if you can find those regular times to just make Monday this for this activity, Tuesday for this activity, Wednesday for this activity, it can just really, like I say, simplify the situation rather than overwhelming you. The other thing is, and I was talking to a student about this recently, is rather than being like goal oriented, as in, right, on Wednesday, I'm going to design a whole website and get it live. To me, that is a huge goal, incredibly overwhelming, and that kind of overwhelm will make it very hard, if not impossible, to even start because all you see is this giant amount of work in front of you. But what I have opted to do recently, I say recently, it's probably been the last few years, that really works for me is instead of being goal focused, I'm just process focused. And what that means is I just block out time to dedicate to that thing. And then wherever I get to within that time is wherever I get to. It's fine. I've done the time. And I often cite this writer, so Neil Gaiman, who has had some very questionable things going on in his personal life, which is such a shame. But he does say this, and I think it's very, very useful, and I have mentioned this before 100% multiple times. He has a writing cabin at the end of his garden, and he says that every day he goes down there for, I can't remember the period of time, it's a period of time that he sets out every day, and he says, the rule that I give myself is that I go down there and to write, obviously, but I can either write or I can sit there and do nothing. I cannot do anything else. I'm not allowed. Like, no scrolling on the phone, no, like, surfing the internet. Wow, how early 2000s does that sound? Or even 90s, I'd say. But anyway, yeah, no light browsing, nothing like that. Like, no. You either sit there and do nothing and stare into space watching paint dry, essentially, or you write. And it makes it easier for him to write, and it's kind of like, well, I may as well write, I'm all the way here. But the point is that he's just allocated that time, and it's about the time and the action of going to do the thing. And it makes him more consistent. And I remember reading this, and I thought, that's really interesting. I like that idea. And it really works for me. And it doesn't even need to be a huge amount of time. For me, it depends on what I have to do, but often it can be between 2 and 4 hours a day. right? And if you're just starting out, I say do an hour. Literally just be like, right, Tuesdays is my content creation day. I'm going to do 1 hour of content creation. Now, what that looks like within that hour is up to you. It can be brainstorming ideas, it can be filming some stuff, it can be editing some stuff, it can be creating PDFs, it can be posting it, whatever it is that you feel you need to do within that, you do within that hour. And the way that I also handle that is I have separate kind of documents. At the moment I'm using Notion. I really enjoy it. It really works for my brain. And within, like, I will have literal like goals. And then I'll have just checklists where I do this thing called chunking, which is where you take a big goal and you chunk it down into the smallest, tiniest actions where you're literally like, this is almost too easy. This is stupidly easy. I may as well just do this. And I will just go through it and see and just do the things. Just do the things. And they can be teeny tiny things, like as simple as changing a line in my bio on my Instagram. Great, tick that off. I've just done something within that hour that I've done content creation. It's not quite content creation, but you know what I'm saying. So I find that really helps in terms of like just allocating the time and doing the work within that time. And wherever you get to by the end of that, you get to by the end of it. What I will say is at the end of each session, definitely, because I've fallen foul to this multiple times, note what you've done, like what you've just finished and what your intention to start on the next session is. Because I've had it where I will have set aside a 2-hour period, but the first half an hour I'm trying to work out where in the world I got to in the last session and where I'm starting from, and it really drains me. So definitely note that down when you end, for when you start. Your future self will thank you, let me tell you. The other thing that I do that I speak about very often is I will use the Pomodoro technique throughout these sessions, these kind of like chunks of time, if you like, and that is where I personally will work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break, and I will repeat that for like a couple of hours, and then I'll take a 30-minute break. I'll often have some food, and then I'll do another like 2-hour block where it's another 5 minutes, and that's just what I find works for me. It's quite a generic kind of timing, but you can try, like I've tried 50 minutes with a 10-minute break. That kind of works for me, and I've tried in between as well, but 25-5 kind of works. And in that 5 minutes I'll be getting up, I'll be walking around, I might go and do some chores, whatever else, just completely switch up my brain function. And what that does is it means often you come back fresh, and let's say you've been stuck on something, maybe you find some new way of doing it, or maybe you just approach it in a different way. Or maybe, for instance, when it comes to writing essays, I'm that person, I get hyper fixated on an idea, and sometimes really not relevant to the question. It's one of my biggest flaws when it comes to essay writing and all of that. So I will go away and I will be doing something, I'm like, I haven't even been answering the question, and then I come back and I'm like, I have to rewrite the whole of this essay. But I tell you what, it's better to realise that after 25 minutes of work rather than like 7 hours of work. So I would highly recommend doing that. It's really useful. So anyway, that's kind of how I deal mainly with my personal overwhelm, to try and minimize it, basically. I'm just trying to think. I wrote some notes just to make sure that I haven't actually missed out anything. Like I say, it really works for me. I do between 2 and 4 hours. I think if you are starting this, maybe start with just like a 1 hour session, just to kind of get into the habit of doing it, because there's something really satisfying by the end of an intentional session. Like, you've intended to do an hour of something and you've done that, and you can literally pat yourself on the back and move on with your day, and you've won the day. That's how I always feel whenever I get to that point, and it always feels fantastic, to be honest. And there was something else I was going to say. What was it? I don't know. Basically, it just really works for me, and you do find yourself kind of getting the work done. Like, the work just happens to get done, rather than, like I say, trying to go for these big goals that feel really overwhelming, because you're thinking about all the individual parts that you have to get done within that day, and it's like, I'll just start in an hour. That's what I was going to say. The other really useful thing about this excuse me, is that you can really tailor it to your energy levels, because I personally have a very should we say sensitive energy consumption / usage system. Don't think that makes sense, but basically, there are times in my day where I really should not be consuming energy because it will ruin me for the rest of the day. Equally, there are other times where I'm a little more on it. You know what I mean? If it's too early, my brain doesn't quite work. If it's too late, I'm exhausted from the day. So I have to kind of find my personal time. I'm like, I know that I will do good work in that time and it will be productive, and it won't be as hard as another time of the day. Because don't get me wrong, this stuff doesn't make it easy. It makes it easier. And it negates making things harder, which is even more important in my mind. But it sets you up with the best chance. Because it's the other thing, there's actual studies on decision fatigue, which is the more decisions that you have to make, the more tired you get. Me being me, obviously, I went to the extreme with this, but that's who I am. You don't need to do that. But even, like I say, something as simple as allocating specific days of the week to the parts of your career that you're striving towards, and the job that you have, like as in where you're actually earning money, your aspirational stuff, that can be dedicated to one particular day of the week. Your family time, that can be dedicated to one day a week, and same with your self-care time, whether that's going and working out, whether that's, cooking yourself a really nice meal, or taking yourself out for a dinner or lunch or whatever, or just sitting down and reading a book. Things like that are really just as important, sorry. But anyway, I hope that this has made some sort of sense and this has helped you in some way, because I know that overwhelm is such a huge part of many of our lives, and we all go through it. That's the other thing. I literally just had a bout of overwhelm on, when was it? Wednesday? Yeah, where I was like, it just felt like all the things all at once, and in fact the week before as well. But when you just kind of pass it out, I guess. And I think it's actually really useful as well, just noting down all the things that you're trying to do, like all the inspiring things you've seen that you want to execute at some point, and just kind of take out the most important ones and be like, right, I have to do those. Those other ones, they can stay there, but they can wait and just be pushed to the side for a little bit until you have a bit more capacity to kind of execute, once you're used to the sort of new schedule that you've got in place, the work that you get into a flow with, and then you can start adding things, because inevitably stuff will get ticked off the list and more space will appear, like what has just happened to me, finishing my academic year, and now I have space 2 days a week, and I'm like, don't fill it. You fill it a little bit, but don't overfill it. So I have to watch myself. So watch this space. Maybe in a couple of weeks I'm like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm doing too much. But for now, because this thing, I struggle with space. I definitely do. And actually I'm getting better, obviously, at allowing myself to rest. But there's this thing called the fertile void, which a therapist spoke about, not my therapist, someone else's, and they said sometimes you need that space for things to grow without you actually actively doing things. Sometimes space just needs to happen, patience, time just needs to happen. And I try to remember that when I'm feeling uncomfortable about the amount of space that is going on in my life. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do feel free to like, share and subscribe. If you would like to support this podcast on Patreon, you can at patreon.com/EmilyDrums. If you would like to suggest a subject that you'd like me to talk about on this podcast, you can go to emilydrums.com/AMA and submit your question, query, idea, and you can either leave your name or remain anonymous. If you would like to reach out for one-on-one coaching with me, you can either at emilydrums.com, or you can head over to Instagram. You can find me at HeyEmilyDrums. But yes, anyway, I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, whatever you're up to. The sun is out right now. It has been a very strange bit of weather going on the past week. But yes, anyway, enjoy your weekend if you're listening to this at the weekend. Enjoy your week if you're listening during the week. And I will see you next time for another subject. All right, sending you lots of love. Bye.